Hi guys, how you going? Campbell here from Autodidactic. Hope you're having a spectacular day. And today I'm going to have a chat with Sonia. And Sonia is someone who has some extra abilities as far as sort of psychic awareness and remote viewing and a few other bits and pieces. So we're just going to have a chat with Sonia about all that kind of stuff. So hope you enjoy. Let's get into it. Where am I there? All right, how
Yes,
are you?
I am completely computer illiterate. Doesn't it show?
Yeah, I'm not that.
I do not own a computer. I never have. I don't own a laptop. All I have is my phone, and I've
Oh, really?
never had technology.
Oh, okay. No, yeah, okay. You're doing it on your phone. Wow.
I'm doing it on my phone because I don't have anything. When this stuff went down with my husband and he got rid of me, I took nothing but a bag of clothes. So I don't have anything, and I'm staying at my brother's house. Thank goodness he had a nice big house.
Yeah, right.
So, and he's not going to be home for 3 years.
Oh, wow. Okay. Well, that was.
Yeah. Yeah. He works actually for the government. He's contracted, but well, he's not really contracted. He's contracted he's like a GS. And he decided to start working for the government so he could have a retirement. And it's like, well, when do you plan to retire? Because you just started working for the government. He goes, maybe in my 70s. I said, your 70s?
70.
I said, oh my God, you'd be too old to do anything.
Yeah, I know.
So that's why he put in for traveling, because he realizes that if he doesn't do it now, when the time comes that he can retire, he probably won't be up to it. So his plan is to use the government to have a good time.
Well, if you can, why not?
Yeah, and he loves Taiwan. My gosh, I mean, he says it's wonderful there.
I've heard it's very like technical, like very advanced, and as far as technology and very clean and very.
He says it's a completely different kind of scenario. Like his biggest thing is that he's had several failed marriages. So he just wanted to go out and be around, people. And he says the reality there is that you're very accepted. It doesn't matter your age, because he's 50. He's actually younger than I am. And he's like, in America, if you're 50, nobody wants anything to do with you. But over there, it's a whole nother scenario. He's like thrilled.
Oh my gosh. 50, yeah, I had this conversation the other day about 50. It's only, you're only as old as you feel. I mean, I don't think 50's old, gosh.
I don't think it's old. When I was a teenager, I thought, oh my God, I'll never live to be 50. I'll die before then. And I'm going to be 55 in March. And it's like 55. I remember being 16.
I know, it goes quick, doesn't it? I don't know, time's funny, isn't it?
Yes, it is. Have you noticed how fast it's going now?
Oh my God. I'm literally losing chunks of days.
I am too. I'll wake up and go, today's Tuesday. Oh crap, it's Friday. Where did the week go?
It's just bizarre. I'll sit down at 9 and start something, and I'll look up and it'll be like 3 o'clock in the afternoon. I'm like, I only sat down 10 minutes ago. What the?
Yeah.
And I can't get anything done. I'm trying to do all this stuff, and it's like, oh my God.
Yeah, I found the same thing. It's like, I'll start to do something, and before you know it, it's like, oh, what? It's getting dark. Yeah, I just got up.
It's just, yeah.
Well, I will tell you this, Campbell. My daughter and I, Wendy, I did a couple of videos with her. She's going to be 30 this year. And we had done an experiment because we started noticing this, and everything happened in 2017. This is when everyone thinks it happened in 2012. No, it all started really happening in 2017. In 2017 is when some great event took place. our moon shifted. You know how we used to wax and wane, and we always had the crescent moon, and now it's like this. This is our moon now. It's bottom and top, well, sideways.
Yeah, right.
It's also when the firmament fell. All of a sudden, the clouds were closer to the ground. I remember, because I'm old enough, how high the clouds used to be. And it's like, oh crap, the moon's completely off kilter. We did some kind of flip, something happened, and we lost firmament. And this was in 2017.
Wow.
And it's like, holy crap. And I remember I think it was in the fall of 2017. Sometime in the fall is when it happened. Because in my house, I had a really nice backyard, and I used to go outside and drink coffee. And my daughter was working, but she had these split shifts. So we were always drinking coffee outside. And I noticed it because one morning I came out and it was like, I feel weird. What's going on? It's strange. I don't feel right. I looked up and I saw the moon outside, and it was sideways. And it's like, oh, what the hell happened to our moon? And then I noticed, oh my God, the clouds. Why are they so low to the ground? And Wendy was like, Mom, you're right. What's going on? Are we in the Twilight Zone? I'm like, oh, hell yeah. And that's when we started noticing above our house, there was this big, huge object. Couldn't see it, but it was dark in the sky, and it was light all the way around it, but there was this huge object, and you really couldn't see it, but it was dark. There was a huge dark spot in the sky. And it's like, what the hell? That looks planetoid. And that was all in 2017. I think it was in September. Pretty sure that was in September. Uh-huh.
So do you know what happened? Any ideas or?
Well, actually I do. My daughter was having this dream, and I've had other people talk to me about it. There's a guy on my channel that talks to me every now and then. His name is Ducky Hellfire. And he's like, Sonia, you were talking with your daughter about the red skies. And I'm like, yeah. My daughter has a lot of prophetic dreams, but I'm telling you, they're not dreams. They're because everything is happening in the now. It's just remembrances. And she remembers being at the house, and the skies were blood red, and huge craft came. And it was picking up people. This craft was so big you couldn't see around it. And so in 2017, I think our world as we know it ended, and we are not where we were. That's why everything doesn't feel quite right. You go out and it's not quite right. It's really weird, really weird. So then I was talking to Ducky Hellfire. I don't know his real name. And he's like, yeah, when I was a child in the 70s, I had a remembrance that there was red skies, and I was by myself, and I was trying to survive. I was going to all these houses. They were empty, trying to find food to eat. And he really started doing something himself with looking at our history and stuff, because it made such an impact on him. And it's like, well, wait a minute. If you were a child and you saw this and you were doing this scenario, then what happened in 2017 when everything changed? Because there's some kind of time discrepancy there. You see what I'm saying? So I do not have all the answers. I do know that I'm blocked on some things that I simply cannot unbreak these blocks. They're horrific. It's like a mind block. Like it's insane. It's like whatever it is blocking me has put into some kind of psychokinesis blocking where I can't get around it. And I do notice that when I'm entangled with people, before I see people that are entangled in my life, I can see a lot of stuff about them. The moment they become a part of my life, I am blocked from them. And it's as bad as me. I can't see anything for myself. You think if I couldn't see stuff for myself, I would be having a beautiful life. I would just set it up. Oh, this is going to happen. I'm going to do this, this, and this. No, it doesn't work that way. It's horrible. I wish it would benefit me, because, oh my gosh, I'd be a millionaire, I'd be rich, and I would have done something a long time ago to prevent a lot of this stuff. I could have done something. But no, I chose to hide away. No, I really did, Campbell, because I was born awake like this. I don't know I don't call it awake. I call it not as locked down as everyone else. Basically, it's I don't have as many lockdowns.
Mm. Yeah, I'm kind of yeah, I don't ever remember being normal, sleep, whatever you want to call that. I remember when I was 5, like just going, hang on. I remember like when I was probably 6 or 7, I literally, for probably 6 months, I tried to work out how I could be adopted because seriously, I'm just like, I'm like, they've put me in the wrong family, and I'm like, this must be a conspiracy, but that means my sister has to be involved, and how would they do this, and where did I come from? And then I'm like, but I look too much like my mum and my cousins, the genetics, but I seriously, I thought I'd been, it's like I bought a ticket, a plane ticket, and I ended up in the wrong place, and I knew it was the wrong place, but everyone's going, no, it's the right place. You're in the right place. And I'm like, no, this isn't the right place. What's going on here?
Well, I've had the same feeling. My mother told me something. My mother just passed away last summer from Alzheimer's. And up until the last 5 years when she really developed that stuff, she used to tell me since I was little that when I was born in Gelnhausen, Germany, my father was German, but went into the American Army because he wanted to become an American citizen. And back then it was during the Vietnam scrimmage, because they still don't call it a war. And he was drafted. They told him, you will either go into the draft or you go back to your country. Well, my dad didn't want to go back to Germany. So we went into the American Army, and he was a German citizen for 7 years in the American Army.
Wow.
It's insane, isn't
it? Yeah.
But he met my mom, and they had gotten stationed in Germany. And so she was pregnant with me. And of course, I was born abroad in Germany, even though that's my father's homeland. And she said that when I was born, I had this thick coating of white stuff all over me. And they were like, okay, so they grabbed me up right after my mom had me. They said they needed to take me somewhere. They said they told her some crap about, okay, well, we're going to take her somewhere and do something with her. I was missing for 2 days. My mother was she thought I died. So they took me somewhere out of the hospital. They gave her some bogus excuse. They brought me back 2 days later. My mother was she thought I died. Her milk dried up because she went into a shock.
Holy crap.
Yeah. Where the hell was I for 2 days? Because my mother couldn't tell me. They got me as soon as I was born, and I was gone for 2 days.
Weird.
Is that weird? Who took me? Where'd they take me? Because to this day, I really don't know. I can't tell you. I can see pieces of it. When I remote view it, I can see that they got this white stuff off of me. I mean, it was like real thick. It looked like thick, heavy Nivea cream, the white cream. And they got all that off me, and they were taking my blood, and they were doing something with me. But it's kind of blocked from me, so I can't see exactly what they were doing. Why would you take a child, a newborn, from a big hospital? Why?
Wow.
There you go. I have no idea.
Going on than what we know about.
Yeah. So I don't know. I am the only one in my family from my siblings, because I have 2 brothers, Chris and Kai. This is Kai's house. And Chris actually lives across the street because he just bought that house to be next to Kai, because he just retired Coast Guard.
Okay.
And my sister, who lives in Pennsylvania, and none of my family, and I know my family on my father's side because we lived over there off and on through the military, and I know my mother's side, which they all live in Oklahoma, and there's no one like me except my daughters, and they're just like me, but they're my daughters.
Yeah, right.
Isn't that weird?
Oh, yeah, I've got German heritage too. Yeah, I've got like the flat head at the back. Have you got that?
Yeah, I got a flat head right here.
German heritage.
So really weird, really weird. I've had 5 times I should have died. I'm not allowed to die. Let's just put it that way. About 10 years ago, I got to tell you this one because you'll be like, you should be dead. This was really bad. I was in my loft. I was putting away all this Halloween stuff because I love celebrations. Give me a reason to celebrate, and I'm there because I love parties. I love celebrating. You know, I just love the good time.
Mm.
So I was in my loft and it was open on the edge, and I was up on top. And I went to lean over and misjudged that there was not any more floor, and flipped out of the loft, fell about 15 feet down and landed on my head. I was like,
Wow.
oh shit. And then I popped up and I'm like, I'm okay. And I had a big bruise on my head, and I had a big bruise on my shoulder because I hit the toolbox on the way down.
Oh,
Because
wow.
my husband had toolboxes in there too. Well, the next day I couldn't move my neck, and I'm like, oh crap, this must be old age. So I made my husband go out and buy me one of those pillows that are like this, because I'm like, I can't move my neck. Old age is kicking in. Oh, sucks to be old. Well, 2 years later, I had a Jeep, and you know, it's a stick shift.
Yep.
And I went to turn my neck to look behind me. And when I did, my arm was going dead. So I went to the hospital and I had some x-rays done. And I'm like, something's wrong with my arm. It keeps going dead when I look. And then I get this phone call from my doctor's office, and it's a woman. She was my doctor. She goes, you got to get in here now. And I'm like, oh, okay. So I jumped in my Jeep when I drove down there, and she goes, come on back here. We're waiting for you. And I'm like, okay. What's going on? It was just the arm thing. I'm thinking, God, I'm going to lose my arm. She goes, I want to know what's going on with you. And I said, what are you talking about? She goes, let me show you the x-rays. So she pulls out these x-rays. When they took the x-ray of my shoulder, they caught my neck. I had 2 brand new vertebrae in my neck. Brand spanking new. And I'm like, well, why are they white? She goes, that's because they're new. You should be dead. You had 0 neck support. So I kept saying, is that why my neck kept crunching? Because for a year, it sounded like broken glass when I would turn I had shattered 2 of the vertebrae in the neck. And as she's telling me, she goes, well, can you turn your neck? And I'm like, yeah, sure. And she's, don't do that. So you want to tell me how I survived that? Intervention.
Yeah.
Because she said 1 vertebrae would have been enough. 2 of them, brand spanking new. And I was water skiing. I've been out water skiing for the last year. I think I laid in my bed for like a week after that happened. And then I was like, oh, it kind of hurts. And I was just kind of like being ginger for like a month. And then after 6 weeks, I'm like, oh, yeah, it really felt like broken glass, like crunch for like a year. Thank God that's gone. I had no idea. It never dawned on me to go and get checked because I'm usually healthy.
Yeah. I don't normally go to doctors either.
That was only 1 time out of 5 where I should have died. When I was 6 years old, and we lived in Okinawa, they have these little tiny roads, barely enough room for 1 car, let alone 2 lanes. And it had storm because they had the typhoons and everything. And my daughter, and we were sitting in the back seat, and with me and my siblings, and there was an umbrella with a long silver tip. Do you remember those umbrellas with the long silver tips on them?
Yeah.
Well, I had it in my mouth, and my dad slammed on his brakes, and that thing went up and into my brain. So when I go to the dentist, I'm like, what happened here? And I'm like, oh, an umbrella went in my brain. Should have killed me. I obviously didn't die. Yeah, is that horrible?
Yeah. Jeez. So what are you here to do then? Why are you unkillable?
I don't know. I've come to the point where I'm not allowed to die because I've had 5 serious incidents where I should have died. I'm not allowed to die yet. That's all there is to it. I will tell you, Campbell, if I could absolutely not be blocked on anything, on certain things, I could see so much more. But it's like, no, you're not allowed. You're not allowed to cheat. It's ridiculous. It's ridiculous.
So do you think that block's got something to do with what happened when you were born?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. I think so. I think they got me and they did something.
Do you think it's AI or spiritual? Like as far as whatever the block is, like you think it's
Oh, I know it's not AI.
not AI?
It's not AI. When I came in, I think I had all my abilities, all of them. I was born with them, and they shut them down. And I can understand why they shut them down. Let me tell you some horrific thing that happened when I was in elementary school. I think I was in fourth or fifth grade. There was a boy he was a bully, and he was really beating up some other little kid on the playground. And I went outside and I was horrified. And I ran up and I was, in my mind, I was screaming, "Stop!" He fell to the ground holding his head like it was going to explode.
Yeah,
And
wow.
it hit me like, "Oh, you can't do this. You can't do this." Because I can influence people and I don't want to. I don't want to, because if you influence somebody, have to take karmic responsibility for that. And I'm not doing it. I'm not taking karmic responsibility for that. Whether it be good or whether it be bad, and it's really not good or bad. It's just high vibration or low vibration. I still don't want to be responsible for that. You know what I mean? When I was a teenager, I had this little crush on a boy, and I thought, oh, I want you. And all of a sudden, he just flipped a coin, and he wanted me so bad. And it got to the point where it's, oh God, no, back off, back off. And I had to run and hide, because it was like he took a love potion to 10,000 extreme, because even I thought, okay, I thought you were cute and everything, but this is too much. And I had to run away. So I had to be real careful in my thoughts that I don't project anything on anyone. No matter what I feel, I've got to put a wall up. It's horrible. Is that insane?
Yeah.
Can you imagine the power the human being actually has if we weren't so shut down?
Yeah, totally. What do you think about, because I don't know, I don't know about my childhood. I remember it, but I don't, if that makes sense. Like yeah, I don't know. I don't remember being there, but I kind of remember some of the memories. What do you think about walk-ins and all this kind of stuff?
Wow, that's unusual. Most people remember their childhood, but here's the thing. Most people only remember things that are connected with emotion.
Well, yeah, and the thing is, I went to 7 schools, lived in 10 houses in 3 states, kind of thing, by the time I was 16. So it's not like it was sort of a normal childhood. So I think most of the time I was just like confused, like, where the hell am I now? What the hell's going on here?
Wow, which has a lot to do with childhood drama. Yeah. I can understand that, Campbell. Being in the military, we were constantly, like, my 8th grade was in 3 schools. 8th grade was in 3 schools. I understand that completely. Because being in the military, we were really ripped around we're lucky if we got 3 years. That was lucky if we got 3 years. So I understand completely what that's like to never have that stability.
I think that's part of the plan too, because back in the 80s, when I was sort of growing up, and also the 70s, is they loved to do that, with all industries, didn't they? You'd sort of, once you worked up to a certain level in a industry, they'd ship you off to another state or another country. You're like, oh, promotion, you've got to move. And what does that do? That just separates all the families, so.
Yes, it does.
So I've never lived in a state where my extended family live, like, never. So I've never had cousins that are close by or any of that. And that's just, because of business. So that it was the businesses that were moving this around, not.
I can completely understand that, because being in the military, you're not living by relatives. No, you're not. And it makes it real hard to form actual bonds with people, because they're leaving or you're leaving.
Mm.
And you're lucky, even if you're someplace for up to 2 to 3 years, doesn't mean the people around you are, because they're on a different thing.
Yeah, timeline. Yeah,
Everybody doesn't move at the same time.
yeah.
So you might have a real good friend for this 6 months and they'll be gone.
Mm. I know, it's weird, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I remember meeting people and like they were like, oh, we've known each other, you know, since we started school, and that just I could not even comprehend that. I was like, what?
Yeah, I never had that. I never had that reality either.
Mm.
Like when people say I grew up in the same place, it's like, were you bored? The one thing about moving is, at least for us, because it's the military, we're getting moved all over the world. So
Yeah.
we're not experiencing just America. We're experiencing all the different places. Because I've lived in Okinawa, Guam, Hawaii, the United States, different places.
Mm. Yeah, so that'd be all right. We just got moved around Australia, you know, it's all capital city to capital city pretty much. So
Oh boy.
not much fun.
Yeah. Now I had just I always talk about Arthur. Arthur is Zanvast. I met Arthur when I was first went on to the internet, because I never even did the internet before until 2000 and I think around 2016 is the first time I ever went. I got a phone and went onto the internet for the first time in my life.
Wow. Wow.
I was really computer illiterate. Yeah, I didn't care about it. It wasn't my world. I didn't care about it. Why do I need to go through this when I can just do this?
Yeah.
So I found a woman called Kelly in the Raw, and this is before she Kelly in the Raw, Kelly Coffee.
Yeah, I've heard that. Yeah, yeah.
So I went on to her channel, and she was talking about remote viewing and going to Patreon. I'm like, what's a Patreon? I had no idea. So I went to Patreon. My daughter and I did. She goes, Mom, it's some kind of thing. You can pay $10 a month, and then she'll do sessions and stuff with everybody. I'm like, what's that all about? So we paid $10 a month, and we went there and we started talking to her. Well, she said, well, let's do remote viewing. I'm like, what's that? What's remote viewing? I have no idea. What's that? And it was from her that I realized that it's like that bicycle. You don't even know you can ride it until you find it, so you can ride it. So she started talking, and then she would say, let's go remote view this, this, or this. So of course I started, texting her and stuff about writing her about what we were looking at and blah, 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 blah. And she realized that I was the real deal. And she's like, Sonia. She's like, describe stuff in my house. And I'm like, okay, blah, 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 blah. She's like, oh my gosh. And then she was telling me later on that out of all the people she's ever come across, I'm the only one that could actually remote view, like to a really high degree. And it's like, then I met Arthur because he ended up joining Kelly in the Raw, Kelly Coffee. And he was talking amongst like probably a couple hundred people. And he's like, we need to form a group so we can all talk, because Kelly only comes on once or twice a week. And at this point, she started having mental breakdowns because her marriage was going into the toilet. So her casting was just cry fest, and it was terrible, poor woman. So there's another guy named Simba's like, okay, let's make a new something where we can all go. And then he invited everybody on Kelly and the Raw to go to this new thing. I think it was called Cosmic Chat or something like this. So we went there. And then a lot of us went there, and then I started talking, because a lot of people started talking to me then, because it wasn't through Kelly. It was now through a new thing that was created, channel. And I think it was on Discord, I'm pretty sure. And then from there, one of the people became super hyper religious, and it was like, oh my gosh, I can't do religion. I don't do religion. So then there was this big blow up, because I started talking about we're in a simulation and a lot of things, and some of the people that were on there couldn't handle it. It was too much for them. It was like, I can't deal with this. It's over my head. It's over my nose. This is not where we're going. And I'm like, but this is where we're at. So then we ended up making another Discord, and there was like 5 or 6 of us, maybe 7. And we had another channel. And then finally it just went down to, okay, I'll just start talking to Arthur because he's the only one that was on the level that I was at. And that's how I got a relationship with Arthur, because he lives in Paris, France. And I talk to him all the time. And it's only because he's already on that level. And a lot of them just weren't there. So they all kind of faded out. And it ended up just being me and him talking about everything. So that's why when I talk on my channel, my videos, or whatever, I'm always talking to Xanfast, which is Arthur. And that's how I met him. It's crazy.
Yeah, what do you think about walk-ins? Have you seen
Arthur is a walk-in. Arthur, he is a walk-in. He goes, Sonia, let me tell you something about myself. He goes, I came into this life in a body that was 3. I'm like, what? Because I didn't know about walk-ins. I never researched any of this stuff. And I said, well, let me see what's going on. Oh my gosh. So he's like, this is what I can remember. He remembers that he somehow got out of his pod. He was in a pod, a body pod. And somehow he had crawled out of it. Here's the thing. When I look into this, some of us are projected into this thing. Not all of us, because a lot of us are the Matrix. They are the Matrix.
It's the Smith.
Well, yeah. And the rest of us that are coming in here that are real humanoid, spirit beings, or whatever you want to call energy beings, we're all projected into this, because this is a simulation. And what happened was something happened where his pod messed up and he stumbled out. But if you're not brought up to a certain degree from those pods, it'll do a mental screw on you, because you have to be put into a certain altered state to be put into this, because a data stream of you is being projected into this. Does that make any sense?
Yeah.
So when he got out of his pod, he was, who knows, and they had to put him back into the pod. And then he woke up in a body that was 3. And it's like, oh my gosh, he goes, I didn't want to come in here. And I'm like, I can see why you didn't want to come in here. I don't want to be here either. I mean, I am never, ever doing this again. Once I'm out of this, you are never getting me to do this again. Not doing it.
I feel like I was a bit like duped in the decision making, It's like you get all promised all this stuff and you get down here, it's like, oh, hang on, you guys didn't tell me the truth. I don't know, but it's like I don't know, it's like there's a lot of us here for a short time to do something. Because I don't know, there's a whole prison planet thing, is this a prison planet and blah, blah, blah.
No, it's not a prison.
See that. Yeah, no. I don't see that at all.
No,
I don't like that.
Corrupted.
Yeah.
I'm going to tell you.
I agree totally, but it's the garden, and then the archons have come in and
corrupted it. Because I'm telling you, initially this was like, I'm going on a vacation.
Yeah, exactly right.
My vacation to hell.
I mean, look at all the buildings around and what used to be, and all the theme parks and baths and the cities and that, and now look at it.
Yeah, I can tell you I've been in here a while, because I have remembrances of different lives. Like I remember being a Greek woman. I remember it. And I remember being a native man with dark brown skin, and I wore like a loincloth, and we were like in a jungle kind of scenario with waterways. And I remember them building, they took it almost looked like bamboo, but I don't know if it was bamboo. And they would take these and build them up like this and then jump off of them for like a high dive.
Yeah.
What the hell? What kind of was that?
Yeah.
And it's like, I remember being in a long canoe because we were escaping another tribe. And I had to jump out of the back of the canoe to cover the path so they couldn't find us. to go back to our little village. I mean, it's like, and in such detail, it's like, whoa, that was a memory. So
Yeah, they do that in I think it's Malaysia, isn't it? They build
I
big.
have no idea.
Yeah, they build these big towers out of sticks that look like they're going to fall,
Really?
and they climb up them, and they tie vines onto their feet around their ankles, and they jump off. And
Oh, wow.
the vines are supposed to sort of stop them as they hit the ground, and it's kind of like a manly sort of thing. But
Wow.
it's I'm pretty sure it's Malaysia, and that
Oh, my God.
they also wear sort of not loincloths, they're more sort of like skirt sort of things, manly skirts. Yeah,
Mhm.
there you go.
Well, all I know is that this thing was built in the water.
Yeah, wow.
So when we went on top of it, we jumped into the water. We could dive because the water was deep.
Sounds like more fun than jumping into the ground, that's for sure.
Yeah.
Jump into the ground, that's crazy.
Yeah. So I know I've been in this simulation a while, and it's like, damn, I need to get out of this.
I can remember a couple of lives, and I still can't wear things around my neck. I'm sure I was hung in my last,
Oh, gosh.
Yeah.
Oh, gosh. Terrible.
I can still feel it.
Oh, gosh. Terrible. Yeah. I remember this is really weird. One day, I've always gotten this since I was a child, this stabbing pain that goes through my heart and out my back.
Oh,
And
nice.
my parents actually took me to the hospital for it a couple of times because I've always had it. And they're like, there's nothing wrong with her. There's nothing wrong with her. And then one day I sat down and I was talking to Arthur, and I'm like, I got to find out where this pain is coming from. So I really tried to break some blocks, and I remote viewed it. And I saw myself taking a sword and whoop,
Yes.
in. I was a samurai warrior,
Harikari.
and the emperor had died, and I was a general, and I needed to have, I never had anything in my life but myself. That's it. No woman, no family, no nothing. Solitary on the side of a mountain is where I lived by myself with a horse. And when I discovered that I put a big sword in me, because it wasn't a long sword, the sword was a little bit shorter, because I had a long sword and a short sword, and I picked up the short sword and did that. When I discovered that, I never had another pain through my chest ever again. Wow. And I thought, oh my gosh, if I would have just known this, I could have prevented this all this time.
I'm sure a lot of disease and pain and problems are, residue of unresolved past lives. But of course, because we're not allowed to talk about that, because it doesn't exist, then it's kind of hard to fix it, isn't it?
Yes, it is. So after I discovered that, I never had the pain again. I'm good to go. But I kept thinking, see, my dad was German, and he was a monster. He was extremely abusive. Yeah. And I used to stand up to him, and no matter what he did, he couldn't get me to cry. And he could beat me half to death, and I wouldn't cry. And I kept thinking, where do I get this strength from? And now I know. Mm-hmm. So it's like, so you think you're going to beat me down? Try. Good luck with that. You'll kill me first. Which is where I get my courage from. So I'm thinking that whatever lives we've lived tacks on to who we are, of course. And you carry it over.
I'm sure it does. Yeah. I mean, everyone comes in with certain traits and stuff, don't they? And certain personality. Yeah. I was watching Laura channel. I think she's Russian or that kind of, region. But she does some, Tartarian stuff, and she says she thinks that she's a walk-in as well, actually.
Wow.
Yeah, I told her to check you out. She mentioned you on a video today, so there you go. You're famous.
I'm only doing what I need to do. I can't tell you how many times I've been taken. I have light doors opening up when they come. I can't tell you, whatever they do, they put you into it's like almost like a mental anesthesia. all of a sudden you cannot stay awake. You cannot stay awake. They try to put you under when they come. I've had light doors open up in my other house, and I was wide awake, but with animals on my bed, and they're all squinting at the light, and I'm going, holy shit, I'm awake here. Don't come yet. Oh yeah, I've gotten to where I'm absolutely not afraid of anything. I'm not afraid of anything. I don't care if a little gray man came here and said, hi, whatever. I am seriously not afraid of anything.
No, I'm not either. I mean, when you realize it's all just a game and it's all just a show and it's all, because this is the thing, like the parasites don't have any power. Their only power is to trick us, is to try and make us believe their version. That's it. Use our power against us. And it's just like, well, if you understand that, then what can they do? Because as soon as you understand that, they can't change your thoughts, so that they're powerless. You know, and all this, you know, all this stuff about war and I just don't know how much of anything's true anymore. I just think so much is just a story, and because it always happens in a faraway land, doesn't it? It always happens to someone else. But the threat's coming to you. It's coming to you. But it's happened. But it's happened somewhere where you can't see it. It's like, it's like the beer virus. You know, it's everywhere, but you can't see it. It's.
I can tell you.
And that's the perfect example. Look what they did to the world through just a story of something that doesn't even exist. Look what they achieved. I mean, that's just the perfect, you know.
Terrible.
What's going on?
Yeah, terrible. I'm always telling people, you know, when I was in 6th or 7th grade, and I still remember this, we had to learn about viruses and we had to learn about bacteria. You're born with the viruses. Now, I wouldn't even call them viruses if you're born with them, but that's what they label them. Now, I was also taught you cannot give, you cannot get, not through kissing, not through sex, not through coughing, spitting. You cannot give a virus. And the only thing that is out there that you can get is bacteria, and that only lasts 15 seconds in the air. And it only spreads, I think, when you sneeze or cough. I think it's 15 feet or maybe 30. I don't know what it is. But your immune system should be up enough where it wouldn't matter anyway.
Yeah.
And then the thing of it is, it's like, well, how are they getting all these people to believe in a virus when we were taught, unless they've stopped teaching this, and they've dumbed them down to a point where you'll believe anything because you're gullible. Something that is impossible.
Yeah, well, this is why they have teachers, you know. It's like they teach us not to think. They teach us to ask authority for the answer. You know, because if you give an answer to authority that's wrong, they say, you're wrong, and they ostracize you and laugh at you and all this stuff. So as people grow up, they leave school, and then they're like, oh, now where's my teacher? Oh, I found them. They're on the television. Now I'll just listen to that person, you know?
Yeah,
And they think they're smart because they're repeating what some idiot on the box is saying. I mean, and you don't need anything to be a reporter. You don't need any kind of anything. You don't need to have gone to any school or anything. You're just a dude, just a person in a suit.
Well, yeah. I mean, I was talking to my daughter, Wendy. She has a friend, and they've got kids, and they were learning in school, planes make clouds. Are you kidding me?
What?
Planes make clouds. It's the natural way to make clouds. I'm like, you're kidding? They're teaching this crap. They were teaching it in elementary school. Planes make clouds. That's normal. That's how clouds are made, with planes. I'm like, oh my God.
What? What? That's okay. Are they trying to explain away chemtrails or something there, or what?
I think they're trying to justify chemtrails.
Yeah,
well, if you tell a child we need to have clouds, you have to chemtrail. We need to have clouds. We need planes up there and start making the clouds so we can have rain.
Well, then,
yeah, I was stunned.
Why do we have deserts? Just, you know, send the planes out over the deserts.
Exactly.
Nice.
No rational thought allowed here. I would have said, so we had no clouds and we had no rain before, I don't know, 100 years ago?
Exactly. Yeah. But before the Wright brothers, no rain
How
for the
ridiculous.
crops. Yeah.
I started looking into that chemtrailing, and they literally started doing it right around the beginning of the 19th century. They started.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah.
Yeah, because I did a little bit of research on it, and I'm like, holy crap, they're even admitting it. Disney put out a video back in the 60s about chemtrailing and the benefits of chemtrailing. Walt Disney. I'm like, holy shit. So somebody sent me this link and I watched it. I'm like, holy crap. Disney's putting out and letting you know. And you know how Disney did things back in the 60s? It's good for you. It's like, oh my God.
Well, they were just the propaganda after children. I mean, and we all know about Walt. He was wasn't a nice character at all. I mean, that whole story is that whole story about how he built Disneyland's weird as well. He suddenly had all this money. He came from nothing. Suddenly had, enough money because he bought the land that he bought for Disneyland was basically a county. He basically bought a county, and then he covered the whole thing, like the whole thing. Imagine how much that would cost. And then you find out now there's tunnels under it everywhere. Who built them? I mean, so I think Disneyland's probably another dig out, and they've just turned it into a because you can imagine it could be like a World's Fair, but they just tarred it up to look, like
theme park.
Yeah.
Theme park.
Yeah, basically, it's all a facade.
Yeah.
There's no way he could have built that.
No.
The time frame's all weird and it's swampy.
Yeah. I mean, I went to the one in Florida one time, and we went to Epcot, and there's no way you could do even a small portion of that entire thing in one day, because I only went for a single day because I didn't want to go for a whole week because I don't like being around people. With being the way that I am, I can stand next to somebody and I'm picking up all kinds of things, and you really don't want to put somebody like me into a crowd. So I'm just standing there, and it was a tough day for me to get through. My kids were real small when I took them. I think Wendy was 6 and Cassie was 9, which is my other daughter. And it was a tough day for me to get through because the place was packed with people. But the place is so enormous. You'd need a whole week to go through the whole thing. It's too much. So can you imagine? Bill, you have no idea how big it really is till you get there. And it's like, holy crap.
And of course, the story is it was built on a swamp as well, as most of these were. I mean, I think that's another cover story for, covered in mud.
Well, how would you have tunnels in a swamp?
Exactly. And
you're going to be flooded.
Well, who would even? I mean, they do it in Perth all the time with housing estates. But we're talking 1, maybe 2-story houses. But who thinks of building big structures on a swamp? It's the worst possible place you can build. What? Doesn't make sense.
Yeah. Well, there's something with Florida, and it's got to do with the stone, or maybe it's not stone, but whatever kind of organic material like a coral. Because remember, Edward Leeds Scallon built Coral Castle.
Yeah.
And with that stone down there, and he looked all over the United States for that specific kind of stone so he could build that castle.
Yeah, he did. Yeah. And then he moved the whole thing too, didn't he?
Yes, he did. Because I guess he must have got roughed up by the townspeople. So he lifted all that stuff. We're talking ton with nothing. So he knew how to do anti-gravity. He knew, and his machinery that he had was really simplistic.
Really, yeah. The wheel, the flywheel. It's got to the flywheel, hasn't it?
I'm very disappointed that somewhere he didn't give out the information for the common man.
I know. The information was obviously given to him. but he
Mhm.
expected for himself to make, this thing for his, what was it, for his lost love or something, or his
Yeah, his sweet 16.
sweet
His
16.
sweet 16.
Yeah.
I'm going to tell you what, the way the man was built, his stature, because he was tiny.
Mm.
I think he weighed 100 pounds. And that he came from Latvia. How do you come from another country with no money?
Mm.
How do you come from another country with no? I don't think he came from Latvia. I don't care what anybody says. Latvia to America, and he was stone broke. How does that work? And in that fact, if he lived in Latvia, where did he come from? Where's his relatives? Why didn't he build a castle there? But this just doesn't add up, does it?
No.
I don't think he came from Latvia. I when I look into him, he came from somewhere, and I keep thinking he came from inner Earth. He came up from somewhere.
So what about Tesla? What about Tesla? Did he?
When I look at Tesla, Tesla was a real person. He was back engineering.
Yeah, that's
He was back engineering. That
That's-
information was already there, but he was smart enough to back engineer it.
Yeah.
That was a big thing, being able to even back engineer it, because so many people it's like we were real intelligent. Then a catastrophe happened. Most of us went down under the ground to survive. Pockets of humanity stayed above in this snow globe. After a certain time frame, when it was going to be okay to come out, when vegetation would have reestablished and blah, 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 blah. And it was about nature reestablishing. So you could live. I see them coming up above. And at that point, they're like children. They're like children because they were so uneducated, completely uneducated. Yeah, they had things like they could cook, and they could clean, and they could do like menial work, but there was no intelligence behind it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
Like,
they had no experience.
Yeah, it was like all that got eradicated, and they got set off from ground zero again, and they had to relearn everything. And it's like, oh, like caveman, except they were dressed well. I keep saying, we're the caveman. We're the caveman. Because we've been so cut off. When we were put underneath the ground too, we were genetically modified at that point. That's when the chromosomes were welded together, and that severed our pineal gland and our pituitary gland. Because at that point, if we had that connection, we could have tapped into the all. Because it's there, it's in the ether. It's the Akashic records, which are inside of us and out there too. But they severed us from that, which is why we're caveman, which is why we're in the dark half of the time.